open to listening to Mayor Tory's argument about essentially banning handguns from people in Toronto? Are you actually considering that?
Well,
it's one thing to listen, but are you actually considering
as I said, it is a complex proposition because it would entail substantial rewriting of the criminal code. But in response to people who were making representations earlier this year, people who were connected with the tragedy at the mosque in Saint-Foy, they made certain arguments. I said I would take them into consideration and examine them carefully, and we are in the process of doing that. Oh, I can't put a timeline on that. We'll obviously examine carefully what they've had to say. Public safety is extremely important to all Canadians, and we need to make sure that we get this right.
Unfortunately, in our country, there are many ways in which a person can illegally acquire a handgun, and I can't speak specifically about the circumstances. That's still under investigation, and although I've talked to the Chief of Police, I don't have any information on how that individual came to be in possession of that gun, but I am familiar with the way in which people intent on criminal and violent criminal activities can at times obtain handguns, both legally and illegally, and overwhelmingly they do it in an illegal fashion, and stopping that flow of guns to those individuals is an important part of the work that we're undertaking together.
Hey, it's Chris Green with News at 6, where we talk everything Toronto. Now, the clip that you just seen there was led off by a gentleman named Ralph Goodale. He's a public safety minister, and it sounds like they're considering Mayor John Tory's request to ban handguns in Toronto. Now, here's the reality. I want to know what you guys think about this. I mean, obviously, I'm going to chime in and give my 2 cents, but I want to know what you think about this. So make sure you leave it in the comments, all right? Now, for me, I personally think it's a great idea. I don't see why anyone needs to walk around with a gun. Unless you're a police officer, obviously, you need to have a weapon on you. And even that is a conversation that we can have another time. But, and to be specific, when I say a police officer should be the only people walking around with guns, that's not to say I have 100% faith in the police force. That's, quite the opposite, right? So, but I do think that they should be the only people to walk around with guns. I don't see why a private citizen needs to walk around with a weapon, because obviously you have situations like the one that we're in right now with the mass shooting, on Danforth, and just 2018 has not been a very pleasant year for gun violence in Toronto. So I think it would be a great idea to ban guns in the city. When I go out with my wife, I don't want to have to be concerned that some psychopath maybe that's jumping the gun here, pardon the pun, but somebody is just going to pull out a weapon and start firing. I don't want to have to live like that. Additionally, we don't even know how the shooter died. Right, I'm talking about Hussein, the mass shooter on Danforth. We don't even know how he died, so we don't know if it was a cop that shot him or if it was self-inflicted, or it could have just been somebody else walking around that had a gun on them, and they seen this happening and they decided to stop it. Right, so I think that banning handguns in the city is definitely the way to go. I'm all for it. If there's a petition and I can sign it, I'm 100% signing that. You see the gentleman in the latter part of the actual video, and that gentleman's name, Bill Blair. Essentially what he's saying is he's talking about the possibility of banning handguns, not to the extent of what happened with the mass shooting on Danforth, but just in general of just, criminal gang activity. Because there's a lot of that going on in the city, right? Where, people are shooting each other. So he's saying, look, we need to stop the flow of guns into our cities, getting it, because the reality is this mass shooting, it's not something that happens very often in Toronto. It's just not. It's definitely sad. It's definitely tragic. But we see a lot more gang violence with guns, and that's where they're kind of leaning towards it when they say we want to ban handguns in the city. And I'm all for that as well. So again, like I mentioned earlier, I definitely want to know what you guys think about this. Please do leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And Toronto, let me know what you guys think. You're welcome.